go ahead and get started with our formal meeting. So if we can start with our opening ceremony, if everyone will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I am Councilmember Amy Fowler. I represent District 7. I'll be conducting today's meeting. And just a couple of things I want to go over before we get started. Number one is if you parked in the underground library parking garage over across the street, we have staff that does have parking validation for you. So, and that brings me to telling you about staff. Cindy Lou is over there. We have other staff members around the building the room that will raise their hand. If you have anything that you need to talk to with one of them, they can help you. The other thing is please don't, there's a couple ground rules. This is a historic building. This room is actually still used for what it was meant to be used for back when it was built, so that's pretty amazing. If you want to take the tour, it's great. So please be respectful of the building itself. No standing on the chairs or hitting the walls or anything of that sort. And that please be respectful with one another. We want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable in giving their opinions today. This is an open and public space. We want to be respectful of everybody having a voice here. So no cheering or jeering. If you do have any signs, please make sure that they're not blocking the view of anyone else in the building or in the room. Staff, we went over that, I think. That is everything in the beginning. We are now on to item A4, which is approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move that we approve the minutes of Tuesday, January 18th, 2019, Tuesday, January 15th, 2019, January 22nd, 2019, as well as the formal meeting minutes for January 22nd, 2019.
I have a motion by Councilmember Mendenhall, a second by Councilmember Luke. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. So we will now go to the public hearing portion of our meeting. This is where you can come up to the podium and have 2 minutes to say anything you want to say to us. I mean, same thing goes. Please try to be respectful to us. But nope, it's your microphone and you can say what you'd like. The way that I'm going to do this is I will call 2 names at a time. The first person to come up to the podium, and then obviously the second person to kind of get ready. Oh, we do have one public hearing. Sorry, there's so many people around me right now. And that is a public hearing on a resolution of funding our future. And I don't have any cards regarding that, so does anyone want to speak to that at this time? Okay, in that case, I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wharton, a second by Councilmember Luke. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Oh, we do have we're not doing this one? The grant application? We are? I thought we were taking this was the...
Madam Chair.
Okay, move it. Perfect. Okay, sorry, confusion. Our second public hearing is on B2 regarding the grant application. I have no cards for anyone to speak to this. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this grant application? In that case, I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and refer this grant item to a future meeting for further discussion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers, a second by Councilmember Johnston. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. We are on to agenda item number C, which is potential action items, which we don't have any. And now we are on to questions to the mayor from the city council. I'd like to thank both Patrick Leary and David Litvak for being here on behalf of Mayor Biskupski. And we'll
Madam
turn
Chair.
it open to the City Council.
So this has been a long-standing item on our agenda that we've had. Oftentimes, we haven't really had a lot of questions. Most of the questions have been, rather spur of the moment. And so what Council Vice Chair Rogers and me as the Council Chair this year, we wanted to use this opportunity to start raising some questions for the record. I think that, we've provided you both with questions. These are questions that we've been working on with the administration, and some points to find out. And so this will be more of a standing item in our future meetings, just to help us keep things on track and moving as collaboratively as possible. So the first question is related to a surveyor error on the Exchange Place property appraisal. And the question is, has the administration pursued litigation against the surveyor who made the mistake on the Exchange Place property?
So I want to thank you for bringing these questions to us. I think it's important for us to understand where you are, and we appreciate the fact that you're asking these questions. So at this point, we've not pursued litigation on this matter, but we are exploring it, so we can follow up with you on that.
Okay, thank you. And again, since this is the first time we've done this, I just want to be clear that I don't expect you to have a articulate, thorough response to each of these questions. So, you can get back to us with that, but we just wanted to add these questions to the record. The second is regarding the impact fee plan update. When will an amendment to the plan be ready for review and council action?
Sorry, following along with you. We are working on that. As you know, Council Chair, you and I met with the mayor this morning, talked about this, so I think this is something in process, and we appreciate the council's attention to this, and you're actually a very, very long-standing attention to this. And I might add, Mr. Chair, if you want articulate answers, you need to direct them to Mr. Litvak.
Okay. And the third question is related to the Golf Fund. What is the status of a transmittal to discuss avoiding a general fund subsidy of the Golf Fund? And what is the current estimate for a general fund subsidy to the Golf Fund for this year?
So I'm not going to answer the question about the general fund piece of it, but I'm reviewing a transmittal right now about the Golf Fund that's coming your way, an informational item to you, and I think we look forward to a good discussion about whether or not there should be a general fund subsidy to golf going forward, and I know that's something you've been paying attention to very closely for many years.
Great. Okay. So those are the questions from the chair. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Luke. Councilmember Mendenhall?
Yeah, I just wanted to re-extend an invitation for Mayor Biskupski to join us for these meetings. She's dropped in for part of some of our formal meetings a couple times in the last several months, but it's been a long time since we've had her full participation in the formal meeting, and particularly tonight when we have quite a few people here that I'm assuming are interested in a contract that is being considered by the administration. It's particularly relevant to the administration, less so to the council who can't execute a contract, and it's just an example of how helpful it is to have her here for those discussions. But I do know that you convey the messages. I think it means a lot, though, for our citizens to see her in her seat there.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Luke.
So one other thing that we can add that I think is related to what most of the folks are here for tonight. So I guess first off, to give a little bit of background, the first time I heard of this issue was on Sunday night when I got an email from Blake. That was the first time because the council does not handle contracts. That is an administrative role. As soon as we found out about it, as soon as the question was posed by Blake, I contacted Patrick Leary, who's the chief of staff. Patrick and I had a conversation. Patrick emailed Blake back, I think, on yesterday, stating that that the city is working on it and the plan. And Patrick, I'll let you talk about what the specifics are, since it's an administrative role. But first off, I just wanted to thank you all for coming out tonight. understanding that we as a council are more than happy to hear from you. We are interested in this issue, but this is entirely administrative. That said, it is something that I do think has a place in our community. I think that the safety aspect to having a range is important to me personally, and I think in conversations that I've had with the chief of staff, I think they would agree with that. So regardless of how it looks, this is something that now that it is on my plate, I will be following it closely. So Blake, where's Blake? Blake, thank you for reaching out. Patrick, do you want to talk a little bit about what your email to Blake yesterday said, just for the audience here?
Sure, and I appreciate everyone coming out tonight, and I echo your sentiment, Mr. Chair. This is something that has a very rich and long history with the city and the community, and something that we are taking very seriously, even though I didn't have a chance to get back to so many of you as you called and wrote. So we are looking at mechanisms to continue moving forward. There are some significant legal hurdles that we may need to surmount, but hopefully you have some good ideas, and we have some good ideas, and we can get there. So thank you.
Did you want to say something, Councilmember Luke? You're welcome. Okay, with that done, thank you again to Patrick Leary and David Litvack for being here and answering the questions that were posed by Councilmember Luke, and we look forward to continuing this idea of asking these questions here in this open dialogue area and space that it's set out for. At this point, we are on to item D2, which is our general comment period. So as I was saying before, I skipped clear to the end of the agenda earlier today. This is how this will work. I will call up 2 people at a time. The first one to come to the podium, the second one to be prepared, and we'll just kind of go through that. We have 2 minutes for each person. We'll be keeping time, and we'd ask that you be respectful. As you can see, there are a lot of people here, and there are a lot of people that want their voices heard. So I'd ask that you please be respectful to the time. And again, we ask that you are respectful and civil with your comments. And with that, we will get started. So if we can start with Blake Koros and Mark Hayes.
Thank you, Council, for hearing me tonight. I'm here representing the public shooting range in Parley's Canyon that is currently known as the PMAA Hendrickson Range. This range is very important to the community, demonstrated by the number of concerned citizens in this room tonight. The Hendrickson Range was started in 1970 as a law enforcement training center. In the past 49 years, the number of users has grown to include the general public, law enforcement, security agencies, DEA, and Hogle Zoo, which most people would probably never guess. Last year, we had 10,000 public shooters use the range that would have been on public land if the range was not there. The range is leased to the Police Mutual Aid Association, and that lease is due to expire March 4th. We initiated conversation with Patrick Leary last October and presented a plan to improve the range and keep it operating for all users. Well, a lot's transpired in the last 24 to 36 hours. I've received emails and contact from hundreds of concerned citizens, many of them you see here tonight. Both Mayor Biskupski and her Chief of Staff, Patrick Leary, have told us via email and phone conversations that the mayor wants to see this range stay open to the public, and Patrick Leary stated he wants to see the range stay open to the public. This is fantastic news. We could not have arrived at this result without the support of the City Council and Mayor Biskupski and Chief of Staff Patrick Leary. And thank you for your communication, Patrick. There's a lot of other people that we'd like to thank, but the 2 minutes is running short, and we have a couple other speakers. That before the second speaker, I would ask that we could pass out a flyer to the council and to Patrick Leary that has. Okay. Okay.
Yep, we have them. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, thank you for your time.
So I have Mark Hayes and then Rich North, please.
Council Chair, councilmen and women. I'm Mark Hayes, retired colonel, Army, served 40 years in the military, 17 of it here in Utah, both Air and Army National Guard. I got drafted this time, the last time I volunteered, but anyway, I'm on the board of directors and Mountain Dell Sportsmen's Association, and Blake and Roy have been working this since last year sometime, but I'm a recent addition to that, and we're going to use this range as a nonprofit. It does include archery. A lot of people don't know that. It's a multifaceted range. It's long distance, only one left in the county. It's, it's got a lot of uses up there. We will use the operating cost. We'll have operating cost, but above and beyond that, we'll pump that money back into improvements on the range. It does need some improvements at this point, and we do think we can make it a lot better. That's military coming by. Sorry about that. Okay, so the board of directors, you've got different people, law enforcement, small business owners, lawyers, et cetera, but the main thing is keep it open to the public, keep it open to the Utahns for safe and ethical hunting. I mean, I was up there 10 times, zeroing before I went out to the deer hunt this year for the first time in 5 years. But anyway, it's an important thing for everybody. And we need to maintain that it's no cost to the Utah taxpayer. And I think that's easy to do with a nonprofit. So we'll continue to operate as it is. Dave Walker will still manage the range. Hours of operation will be the same for now. And we'll continue to cater to all the different groups, businesses, public, police, hunter safeties. There's a lot of free courses up there that aren't included in those, 10,000 people that come out there every year. Same safety standards and procedures will be followed. They may be enhanced a little bit.
Time, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. I have Mr. North and then Hugo Johnson, please.
Madam Chair, council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I also would like to thank Patrick Leary and the mayor's office. We've had very good discussions the past couple of days, and we're looking forward to it. In the packet that was circulated to you is a copy of the detailed proposal that we made last October. We hope you have a chance to look at that. We will be discussing that in detail with Mr. Leary and the mayor on Monday. We know there are issues that need to be resolved. Some of those issues, and we're already working on them, involve environmental water quality, fire hazard, insurance of all types, and of course improvements to the range itself. I don't know if any of you have ever actually been out to that range, but I'd like to extend an invitation individually or collectively to come out. We will give you the full meal deal, and you can kind of see what's happening. There are actually 3 ranges. There's a 27-lane general public shooting. There's a tactical range that private agencies like Brinks use, and then there's a shotgun range that has 5 towers, and we host a ladies' skeet shooting group up there regular. So the range has lots of attraction to many people, and so please come up and see us. So at this point, I'll just stop and say I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have some.
And we appreciate that opportunity. The way it works is that this is your time to speak, so we're going to let you do that. And if we have questions, we can reach out to you in the future and ask those questions. So if you want to say anything more, please do.
No, I think everyone understands the issues here, and we're appreciative of being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. North. So we have Hugo Johnson, and after Mr. Johnson, Elwood Powell, please.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to comment. I've been a user of the Harleys Canyon Range for the past 10 years. I shoot 300 rounds every week, every Sunday. So I've been up there plenty, and I can tell you that the range provides 2 things to the public. Even if you don't own a gun, you're never going to go there. It provides a safe environment for people to shoot their guns, to sight in their deer rifles, to do whatever they need to do. And which also curbs illegal shooting in other areas where they shouldn't be on public land or up in Lambs Canyon or wherever. People, if they lose a place, then they find somewhere else. So the range helps to keep the environment clean because we keep everything there on site. All of the hulls, all the empty shells, the lead, the jackets, everything is kept in one area so we can control it. We can keep it clean and keep it nice for everybody so that it doesn't pollute the public lands around in Parley's Canyon and throughout the state. It's really a blessing to have this close to this metropolitan area to serve the needs of this particular group of people, which is a large group of people, and we thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Powell, and then Terry Putnam, please.
Elwood Powell is my name, and I'm currently the head coach of the University of Utah pistol team. We've used that range for many, many years. We also teach marksmanship classes for credit at the University of Utah, both pistol and rifle. And in the summertime, we teach those classes at this range on a 25-yard range. But in order to do so, we've had to repair that for many, many years because it goes into inactivity during the winter months. I'm also past president of the Utah State Rifle and Pistol Association, past president of the Utah Precision Marksmanship Society, and past president of the Utah Shooting Sports Council. We have many, many, many citizens of this county and Utah County, Summit County, Davis County that use that range. It needs to stay open. It's one of the very few spots in this state that is not subject to encroachment, much the same as the range that we've rehabilitated in Wendover that's 1,000 yards. The south-facing, it's a south-facing range, and the backstop is a military bombing range, so we have no problems with encroachment. Same thing that you have up here with this range. And not only that, there is no noise to bother citizens who may living in adjacent areas. So my plea is to keep that range open for indefinitely. One of the things that you have to keep in mind that may not come to your attention is if you close the range, you have an immediate obligation to clean up lead as a hazardous waste, and that can be a tremendous burden. I've been involved in the development of 5 ranges out in this state since I have been active. Time, one sir. In St. George, one in Heber City, or Cedar City, one in Vernal, and one in Price, and the rehabilitation of the range in Wendover. And please keep this range alive.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Mr. Putnam, and then Matthew DeLong.
Hi. I have shot up at Holiday Gun Range. It went away with the encroachment of housing, and we lost that spot. We used to go out in the West Desert. That's now encroached with houses. We're slowly getting pushed out of the avenues and places that we can go shoot, and when you do find a place to go shoot, a lot of times you're told it's not a place that you can shoot. It's just getting frustrating to go out and find a place that's safe that you can go out and shoot with your kids. My son, at 7 years old, started shooting up at the Hendrickson Gun Range with me. He's now 22. We've shot up there. My daughter has shot up there. It's a very safe environment. It's one of the only places like it. You can't go out to Lee Cay. You can't go out to the end of the places. They do not offer the same type of shooting environment. I think this is an awesome thing for kids, for families. It'd be a sad day to see it go away. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Putnam. Matthew DeLong, and then Rich Shea. Hopefully I said that right.
Thank you for this opportunity to make a presentation to you. I'm Matt DeLong, one of the founders of the Utah Precision Marksmanship Society. I've been using the Hendrickson Range since 1984 for training, education, and competitions. I actually own a piece of national records that have been shot on the Hendrickson Range. And I'm currently the assistant coach of the University of Utah pistol team. And I'd like to take this opportunity to brag about one of our products. that she is Lexi Lagan. She has taken the only women's pistol Olympic slot for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, and she's a product of our organization. I've been certified to teach instructors in pistol, home firearm safety, and range safety officers. And the objective of all of this training is the same. It's to generate people with the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to safely and properly handle firearms. I've been involved with teaching the university classes, and believe it or not, they're one of the department's favorites because of the high academic standards of those classes. I would also argue, partially as a result of my PhD, the fact that competitive shooting is something of an elitist sport like golf because of the incredible focus on mental discipline, concentration, focus, and self-discipline. And therefore, I would request that you keep these opportunities that I've had for the last 30 years available to future generations of competitive shooters, students, and just the general public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeLong. Mr. Shea, and then Dan Hood, please.
Okay, my name is Rich Shea, and like Elwood and Matt, I'm a past president of Utah Precision Marksmanship Society, which is a 501c3 non-profit corporation. UPMS has been around for a very long time, since the 80s, like Matt said, and we're the local affiliate of the U.S. Olympic Committee, being chartered to generate Olympic-level shooters. And as Matt talked about a minute ago, we're so proud of one of our shooters. It's incredible. Her name's Lexi Lagan. She's won everything in sight, and hopefully she'll win her sports in Tokyo in 2020. We contract with the University of Utah, as Matt mentioned, to teach both rifle and pistol marksmanship classes. These are graded classes, so it matters if you show up. We also have a public pistol league that's a great deal of fun. It's run much the same way that a bowling league is. It's handicapped. So if we have somebody new show up and they may not be doing so well, their scores are handicapped so that when they're on the team can be competitive with everybody else. And the shooting sports community, I've been involved in it for quite some time, is open, friendly. For example, in the Pistol League, if somebody new shows up and is having a hard time, the expert shooters there will give them tips and hints and ways to do better, even though you're teaching a competitor. It's really a great deal of fun. And other than that, everything that I was going to say has been said already. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. And Mr. Hood, and then Patrick Clark.
Council, thank you for your time. My name is Dan Hood. I'm here representing the Utah Polite Society. We're one of the many shooting clubs that operates at Hendrickson Range. We've been at Hendrickson Range for almost 15 years now. We run monthly events. We have between 25 and 30 people that attend these monthly events. We have a mailing list of about 400 people. The focus of our group is to promote responsible concealed carry and provide a venue for folks that have chosen to do that, to learn safe, appropriate, responsible skills to support that. In the time that we've been doing this, we've been lucky enough to partner with a lot of local law enforcement and government groups to help support that goal. Some of those groups that we have worked with over the almost 15 years is the Utah State Motor Vehicle Police, Ogden Police Department, the Sao Paulo, Brazil Police Department, Valley Emergency Communications, the Utah National Guard, the pilots of the 419th Fighter Wing, Hill Air Force Base Security Force, the Utah Corporate Games, the First Shots National Education Program, Intermountain Healthcare Life Flight, and the Pink Pistols LGBT Shooting Club. Closing Hendrickson would have a huge effect on the many opportunities for safe, responsible education and recreation, and increase the impact on recreational shooting on public lands. Law enforcement, civilian, and military agencies would also lose a low-cost facility in Utah that also has a long cultural heritage supporting shooting and hunting in the state. I thank you, Council, for hearing it, and I'm encouraged to hear the news that maybe we've made some headway in keeping this range open. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hood. Mr. Clark, and then Corey Boren.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Patrick Clark. I've been a patron of Hendrickson Range for about 10 years now. Been able to enjoy it in a couple different capacities. First capacity as a family member. I've seen first-time shooters up there. I've seen families up there with their children, teaching them responsible gun ownership. So there's that aspect of it. Additionally, it's a formal training facility. I've been able to participate in several different types of training. Defense of myself, defense of my family, and also emergency response activities up there. And then lastly, an opportunity to practice what I've learned in the training, which is so critical. If you attend a training, a lot of those things don't stick with you unless you've practiced them over and over. And this gives the public an opportunity to come up there and participate that in a well-managed facility. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. Boren and Weldon Anderson.
Council, thank you for your time. I'd like to jump ahead of something and say, in case an argument comes up, that we have a lot of indoor shooting ranges that are popping up in the valley. They are a completely different animal. They accommodate a completely different marksman, and they're, for me, unpleasant to shoot at. I also believe that the Lee K range will not be able to support the number of shooters that will be leaving this range and going to the Lee K range. And the range that I prefer in Bountiful is minuscule compared to both of these ranges, and it will be overran if this range closes. Another thing I want to bring up is with the decrease of our ranges, we will be using our federal public lands. And this will have marksmen coming and encountering other people that are using our public lands. I'd rather use the range. That's what I'm there to do. It's safe. I know the rules. I don't have to worry about people that don't know how to act around shooters. You stick me on public lands, we're going to have increased issues. I do not want to see this. Please keep these ranges open so we can use them. Thank you for your time, Council.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson and then Nelson Gardner, please.
Thank you, Council, and for Patrick Leary for having us come today. I just want to say one of the great things about the state of Utah is that we have so many choices for recreation, and it is a great opportunity for diverse ways of using our state. I've been a firearm instructor teaching at that particular range for close to 14 years. It is one place where everything is there. We have restroom facilities, we have a classroom, we have opportunities to teach our own curriculum without being worried about other people that have been mentioned before who might not be as safe on that range as we would hope for our class. This gives us an opportunity to share skills and knowledge, and it expands more than just our state. We have had people from other states come in and teach classes that we could not get here. We don't have all the resources right here in Utah, and it's a great thing to have people from other locations come, rent this range, and bring a skill set to our population. So we appreciate the opportunity to continue this range. And one of the great things about having a nonprofit group do it is those who are there using it have a passion about doing the right thing because we're invested. And because we're invested, it's going to proliferate and become a much better range than it is already. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner and then George Schaefer, please.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. Maybe my first comment is to hear the comments of the other folks that have spoken tonight. It actually does truly warm my heart. And we're a patriotic group. The gun community here in Utah is truly strong. and we're very passionate about this, and those of us that are here obviously are very passionate about the PMAA range. I've visited the range for the last 10 years or so. I've rented the range many times to teach classes. I'm an NRA certified instructor and former law enforcement officer. So I just wanted to kind of voice that as well. It's an opportunity for some of us to be outside in the range and in a very safe environment. And the other thing that is interesting is, you know, in today's day and age of electronics, there's everywhere electronics. Our kids are glued to their electronics. And the PMAA range has allowed me to take many kids up to the range and get them a little bit away from their electronics and out into the beauty that is Utah. And the range, the proximity of the range is awesome and very, very much needed. It seems like those of us who like to shoot outside, we're being pushed further and further out, and we have fewer and fewer opportunities to get our families, our friends, our colleagues, and go shoot outside. And the PMAA range, because of its proximity, is an amazing spot that should be maintained, and whatever that takes, I'm in huge support of it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Mr. Schaefer, then Jacob Stevens, I think.
Thank you. I'm George Schaefer, and I just want to make a little comparison. Number one, shooting is fun. Some people think, how can that be fun to shoot little holes in something you can barely see? I don't know. How do golfers enjoy something? Hit a little white ball to a hole they cannot see. It's just fun, and we enjoy it. I enjoy the camaraderie that shooters share. I was at one of the ranges a few years ago, and at the pistol range, and we were shooting and looked up in the brush just above the target area, and there were 3-headed deer. Nobody took shots at the deer. Fact is, we all put our guns down, checked our targets, and that sort of thing. And a few months later, I was at the rifle range at the same shooting facility, and there was an elk that went strolling across between the 100 and 200-yard range. Nobody shot at the elk. Shooters are polite. The Polite Society or organization has been mentioned. We appreciate the opportunity to do this. We know that socially, shooting is not a very well accepted activity, but years and years ago, at the beginning when this country was new, if a man went to church without a gun, he was fined because everyone had to be armed most of the time. And so I'm not suggesting we all take long guns to church or anything, but it would be interesting. But anyway, this facility has served this community for a long, long time and is very valuable, and it's nice to have something like it that, as it's been mentioned earlier, is not likely to be encroached upon by development and that sort of thing, and so it would be well worth the time and effort to save it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Stevens, before you begin, come on up, but I just want to remind people to be a little closer to the mic. We've had some people tell our staff members that they're having a little bit of a hard time hearing. So if you can just kind of pull that mic close when you're speaking, that would be helpful for everyone. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. And after Mr. Stevens, we'll have Ellen Tolstad.
Okay. My name is Jacob Stevens. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. As you know, Utah has a very vibrant shooting sports community. There are a lot of hunters, a lot of competitive shooters, a lot of people that own guns for self-defense or for other things. And we always have, and that's not likely to change in the near future. There are a lot of ranges in Utah, but a lot of them are on land that's desirable for residential or commercial properties. And so the likelihood that they're going to be here decades from now for my kids, for my grandkids, is unlikely. This facility is really only good for this. Nobody else wants it for anything else. And it's a perfect location for this and not for much else. Getting rid of it would not help anybody else, and it would hurt our community. Also, another point is that a lot of the local ranges are short range ranges, 50 to 100 yards, maybe 200 yards. This has an 800-yard range where people can do precision, practice precision shots, long range. if this closes down, people are going to go somewhere else. They're still going to practice that stuff. They're not going to stop practicing. They're just going to go to federal public lands. And like other people have mentioned, there's going to be ATVers or hikers or horseback riders. This is a much more controlled, much safer. We don't have the risk of fire or things like that, people leaving garbage out there. I think it would be a smart decision to keep it. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Ms. Tolstad, and then Andrew Piscadillo, right? I was close, I think.
Hi there, my name is Ellen Tolstad, and well, everybody's pretty much said all the good stuff already. But I'm here as a member of a avid family of hunters. And if you're going to be a safe hunter, you have to be able to practice. It's not like, oh, it's time to go deer hunting and you just sort of pull your rifle out and assume it's going to work when you get there and it's going to shoot straight and nothing bad is going to happen. So it's very important to have a facility like this one to be able to practice. Everybody else has mentioned, well, people are just going to head out to the federal lands if the range closes, and some will. But then other people may not, and they're the ones that, harm may come their way if they really aren't able to successfully practice with their long guns. So I do urge the administration to consider the plan that has been put forth. I've seen the plan, and it really does cover all the bases. The insurance can be handled, the legal aspects can be handled, it'll be a nonprofit. And I know there are some great plans to improve the facilities that are there. And then also, I would like to invite any of you to come up and have a tour. I mean, you all know how to get a hold of Blake, he knows how to get a hold of me. We would love to show you around, show you what's there, and also some of the good things that are planned for it. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Tolstad. Mr. Piscadillo, and then, oh, this is Elizabeth. How do you pronounce your last name? Yesakova. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, council members and the mayor's office. I appreciate the time to be here. I would really like it if you guys would keep the range open. So I have taught at least 30 people. I'm a student at Westminster College. I've taught at least 30 people how to shoot at this range. Many of them have never seen a gun before. Some of them aren't even from this country. I taught people from Nepal and elsewhere. And it's really important to know how to properly handle a firearm. What if you come across a firearm and you have no idea what to do? What do you do? Do you just call the police? What if it's loaded? What do you do? And that's one of the things I teach. I teach safe handling, safe operation of firearms. And most of the ranges nearby can cost up to 3 times as much to shoot at. And I pay to take these people the first time. I cannot afford to take them if it costs many more times. And also, I can't teach them how to do long-range shooting. In order to do that, I have to haul steel targets all the way out to the desert, and that is really time-consuming, and I can't do that on a short notice. So I would really appreciate it if you guys would keep this range open to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yazakova, and then Mr. Neil Olson.
Good evening. The PMA shooting range for me was quite a turning point in my life. When I was little, my father taught me how to shoot, and I developed such a passion for it. And when I moved out here for college, I had no opportunity to pursue that interest, all until Andrew Piscadillo introduced me to this shooting range. He has taught me and very many other people how to responsibly handle firearms there. This shooting range is essential to the community, as it is a safe, controlled, and educating environment. It is open to the public, and it is affordable, providing a unique opportunity for people to learn to shoot both close and long range and to properly handle firearms. This range is irreplaceable, and it must remain open and public. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Olson, and then Stephen Scott.
My name is Neil. I am very thankful for this opportunity to address the City Council. I believe that the most important aspect of life is education. And this range, the PMA range, was open for training and education. And education goes hand in hand also with safety, and safety is a very, very important aspect of firearms training and ownership. If the range closed, I'd like to impress upon your mind the dark side. Then we would have shooters in the public lands or, in the outback, introducing lead into the environment and also garbage as targets. Very often we find televisions that have been shot up. And I think that keeping this range open can address that problem. It can keep some of the litter and the lead contained. Thank you very, very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Mr. Scott, and then J.P. Bernier.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. I appreciate the opportunity of letting me to speak here tonight. I was born, raised, educated, worked, and raised my family here in Salt Lake City. I've used the Parley's Canyon shooting facilities for many years. Its location is close enough to enable access by so many in the city and county, yet at the same time it has a secure remoteness that ensures safety. The benefit of the range is that it has provided a venue for individual and group shooting, as well as for organized classes and training, as you've heard tonight. Gun ownership in the U.S. is at an all-time high, and at the same time, there is a valid concern about those who have access to and use guns. Guns are here to stay, and we as gun owners must have a healthy respect for local, state, and national laws, which are one of the responsibilities that comes with gun ownership. An important responsibility of gun ownership is safety. An understanding of safety and proficiency does not come merely with the purchase of a gun. Training is essential and inevitably deepens the sense of respect for the weapon itself, as well as the laws surrounding its ownership, safekeeping, and proper use. Facilities such as the Parley's Canyon Range provide an organized and safe environment for gun owners and discourages them from using unauthorized areas in which to shoot. I strongly encourage the Council to consider all options in keeping the facility open and operating, thereby providing a venue for safe use and training in the use of guns. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bernier, and then Rod Miller, please.
Good evening, council members, mayor's office. Thank you for braving the weather to come out and give us a chance to talk to you. J.P. Bernier, I am a Utah registered paramedic. I am on the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue Team, and I'm also active with the Polite Society group that has been mentioned already in medical capacity in some of the trainings involving the law enforcement agencies and medical training such as the life flight scenarios that we've run at the Hendrickson Range over the years. I've been participating for the better part of a decade there. When I first heard that the Hendrickson Range had the potential to be closing, it reminded me of the closure of the Holiday Gun Club in 2008. And I remember that the council had done quite a bit of work. Former council member Randy Horiuchi had a lot of good things to say about that, and I'll keep it brief, but I did want to read a quote that I found in the Salt Lake Tribune in regards to the proceedings back in 2008. Mr. Horiuchi says, quote, "I'm working very hard to try and provide an alternative location. There are 100,000 recreational shooters in the valley and along Wasatch, and there are not enough places to shoot. We have spent millions and millions and millions," still quoting here, "of dollars on soccer fields, ball fields, swimming pools. Recreational shooters are taxpayers and members of our community. They deserve an opportunity to have their recreational pursuits satisfied," end quote. I know that after the Holiday Gun Range closed, there was discussion about moving the $80,000 worth of equipment from the Holiday Gun Range up to the Hendrickson Range, and also providing an opportunity to clean up the range and make it more of a green facility dealing with lead abatement, garbage disposal, and the such. In the decade that I've been there, I don't know that a lot of that has happened. So it is instrumental that this range have the county's support to provide a safe place. I think the statement has been made many times how safety is important to the shooting community to keep the garbage and the unsafe shooters out of the backcountry, so to speak. So thank you for your time, and I hope that we can see this range have a bright future.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, and then Dia Theodore.
I would like to suggest that the City Council bring before the Planning Commission a change in zoning to the area designated as the future inland port. The area north and west of the Amazon facility has a couple of designated nature areas. I would like to see these expanded to include the area now designated as inland port domain. I would like to see the area around the future Utah State Correctional Facility zoned as a nature preserve to protect the habitat of pronghorn antelope, red fox, raptors, burrowing owls, and coyote. Continuation of agricultural usage with no acceptable industrial development would be acceptable. How many cities have within their limits a pronghorn antelope herd and other aforementioned wildlife? In conclusion, rezone the northwest quadrant of Salt Lake City around the prison site as a nature preserve. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dia Theodore? And then I have Martin Seghetti.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for letting us speak. My name is Dee Theodore, and I am just here on behalf of the range. I was just shocked to learn recently that it was actually potentially closing, so I just wanted to come out and support our fellow local shooters and law enforcement. In my opinion, this facility provides a respectful and safe recreation for all, including women like myself. I think it's a rare gem to be able to go to a clean and well-maintained facility that's outdoors with such a beautiful landscape, yet so close to our city, and there's just no place like it. In addition, the people who run this facility are first class. They love their sport and are dedicated to safety, they're helpful, and they are a true shooting community. Although I think it's safe to say this is a male-dominated sport, I do know that many women use this facility. I'm pleased that the facility graciously welcomes us. As a Girl Scout troop leader, we have plans to participate in archery and possibly target shooting this summer as an activity. And so I'm not aware of any other facility that has this option. So I'm hopeful that the City Council will allow the Hendrickson Range to continue to operate on this property. Thank you for your time.
After Mr. Seghetti, I have Mr. Chris Griffin, or Miss.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak to the council. So, my name is Martin Seghetti. I'm working at the U. I'm a choice Uton for the last 10 years, and originally I'm from Europe. I'm speaking here on behalf of the range. Part of this is because of the uniqueness of the range. You've already heard a lot of arguments about what the range provides or not. But what I want to make sure that you understand is that within this range, you have a facility that cannot be replaced by any of the other ranges. There are shooting sports, and there are scenarios that can be played out in this range that are typically not can be played out in any other range. And on top of that, it's a range that actually, like already mentioned, with the uniqueness of the location, is a nature experience as such. So you're going there not only because you can shoot, but also because it's an environment that you can enjoy, like other people go fishing or angling. One of the things I want to emphasize is that there's a pistol tactical range that allows people to actually do things much more realistically with regards to motion and shooting. It's not a stationary range. Another thing that I want to emphasize is that the long-range rifle shooting there is possible. We've already heard about that. And then I also want to say that the alternatives that are offered within the valley would force a lot of people to actually add to traffic crossing the valley, which we all don't want more traffic in the valley. And on top of it, it would bring more travel time to a lot of people, especially on the East Bench. East Bench people would have to go and cross the valley or go out of the valley towards Bountiful or towards Utah Lake. Lastly, if you close the range, you might face the same scenarios that we had at Utah Lake with pollution and closures and lots of discussions, which we all kind of were if you have an already regulated environment, which I think makes more sense. And then one of the things personally to me is I've trained out of my family and my circle of friends, probably about 10 or 12 people on that range, and brought them, if not necessarily embracing the shooting sports, to a point where they understand how to handle a firearm if they ever come across it. So that's a safety aspect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin, and then Chuck Hinson.
Thank you, Council, for letting us talk. I might be the only resident from Summit County. I came down here tonight. I've been shooting at the Hendrickson Range for 10 years, and I've had a membership there for the last 5. Summit County, we don't have a facility like this. This is a very unique, it's a great facility. Also, I live in Summit Park, which is only about 5 miles up canyon from the Hendrickson facility, so it's very convenient for me, but also living in the mountains, I'm very concerned about wildland fire, especially with what we've seen the last several years. Other states have had issues where shooters are out in the woods and ricochet off a rock, maybe using not the right type of ammunition, causing huge wildfires. So being able to have a range so close to the Salt Lake Valley and also Park City, I know a lot of Summit County residents use this facility a lot. It just makes me feel safe to know that there's a place that you can go practice shooting firearms in a safe, controlled manner, that you're not worrying about causing a wildfire. You're also not out in the Uintas having hikers, bikers, people on horseback. I personally, in the last 5 years, have brought about a dozen of my friends to that facility and brought them from, instead of shooting out in the Uintas, let's go down here. It's more fun. We don't have to lug around as much stuff. As a Utah resident, I would really hope that you guys do keep this facility open. I enjoy it a lot, even though I'm not a resident of your county. So thank you guys for your time.
Thanks very much for hearing us. I'm Chuck Henson. My first experience at Hendrickson's Range was in 1979 when Jeff Cooper, the grandfather of modern pistolcraft, and Dennis Tueller, who retired from Salt Lake City PD, hosted a national and international competition up there. I got the bug, was involved in competition, and my last year competing was in 1991. I've seen that range go from a state-of-the-art police training facility to what it is today, which needs some serious repair. Dave Walker has done a phenomenal job running that range. He's one of the best things that ever happened to that range. And also, I really admire Blake and these gentlemen for trying to acquire a lease to bring this range back to a state-of-the-art training facility for the police. Also, armed security. I was an instructor for Department of Public Safety with armed security. I now do that through the Department of Commerce Division of Occupational and Professional Licensing. Armed security in the state of Utah has to qualify twice a year. And that range is unique to allow us to be able to do the training and the qualifications that we need to do. There's no encroachment. We can use it in dim and low light situations, and it really adds to being able to help these men with public safety, and that's what's really, really critical here. Blake asked me to write a letter. I think he's passed a copy to you folks. And over the years, I got to looking back, I've trained some 34 different companies, probably thousands of security guards, also CCW classes, and I understand now that there's like 1 in 10 Utahns have a concealed carry license. And this is a wonderful facility for them to go and practice and train, but it does need some repair. And I'm convinced that these gentlemen who are trying to acquire this lease will bring this thing back to a state-of-the-art training facility. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you. Okay, Mr. Henson's was the last card I had. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this matter? Come on up. You can say your name into the microphone and then fill out a card afterwards and hand it to Cindy when you're done.
Thank you, council members and the mayor's office for hearing us all today. I'm here, my name is Shoshana Eberts, and I am the facilitator of a Girl and a Gun women's chapter that meets in Salt Lake City. And I'm also a firearms instructor, NRA, USCCA, and Utah State Concealed Carry instructor. So I want to speak to women's sports, and I'm sure you all have heard that women are a growing population in the shooting sports. And I want to impress upon you all what changes being able to shoot in practice does in a woman's life. I'm sure you know that bad things happen to good people, and so when a woman has the opportunity to learn safe usage of a firearm, there is no comparison to the confidence that comes into her life and the sense that she can protect her children and her family and her home. And there's nothing like it. I've met so many women from all walks of life that this means so much to. And our organization, A Girl and a Gun, is more than shooting because we support each other. We learn and grow. We talk metaphorically about shooting. So when you step up to that line, how are you stepping up to the line in your life? And so we're also bringing in meaning to women that directly impacts their lives. Thank you very much for your time and the opportunity.
Thank you. And I saw another hand come on up. And same thing, please just state your name into the microphone, and afterwards we'll have you fill out a card.
My name's Mike Adams. I am one of the range safety officers up at the Hendrickson Range. I get the opportunity to interface with the public up there quite often. Comments, new shooters up there are very impressed with the range. Multiple times I've heard, this is a great facility. We love just the structure and the camaraderie, people friendly up there. I think in the 30 years I've been shooting up there, I've seen one instance where somebody's had to have been escorted off the range. So a very close group, very close-knit. Some of the comments I've heard here about, women getting into shooting. I've had the opportunity twice to take young women's groups up and teach them basic safety, firearm safety, handling, and just getting them used to firearms. They love it. I mean, once we set up some tin cans and they shoot these tin cans, they're hooked. We've had some that are very hesitant, but even being hesitant, I think it's very important, and I've shared this with them, that if one of these young women gets involved babysitting or something, and they come across a weapon in an uncontrolled environment, what do? So they've got an opportunity to learn how to handle that weapon and how to make that a safe environment. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. I saw somebody else come on up.
Council, appreciate the opportunity. My name is Bill Pedersen. I'm a director with the Utah Shooting Sports Council here in Utah. We're a grassroots lobby organization, and we work very closely with our ranges throughout the state of Utah. We also work with our school teachers and to provide safety education classes also for our kids. And my history goes back. I remember using the Hendrickson Range as a very young child, and it is a great pleasure to see that this facility can still be used potentially by our youth as well. I think it's very important. We, part of the Utah Shooting Sports Council, we have a group of youth that come in all over from the nation, and we've used the Hendrickson Range to teach about Utah gun law and the safety and about firearms, and that would be greatly amiss if we lost such a facility. But I just want to say, not only from the Utah Shooting Sports Council's position in support to keep this range active, but we also have support from the National Rifle Association as well, from our local representation as well too. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I have another card back there. Come on up. Price is right.
Charles Christopher, thank you for allowing me to talk.
A number of people have mentioned the uniqueness of Hendrickson Range. It's so difficult to explain that, but it's a difference between defensive shooting and marksmanship, and that's why that range is so important to training. There have been a number of people that have come up and spoken to you, and they've been very humble in not telling you that I personally know they've been involved with training and influencing hundreds, if not thousands, of people through the years. In the next week or so, I will be training the 3rd church pastor here in town, my church, 3rd one. The property has been used, the last lease has been going for 30 years, and it strikes me that there was some intended use for that property when the lease was going to be terminated. And I understand that you're not involved with contracts, but it would be nice if you folks could look into what the intended use of that property is and maybe tell us what it is at a future council meeting. The PMAA documents in the state corporate documents say the use of the facility was Class 8134 civic and social organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask again if anybody would like to get up and speak. Going once, twice, I knew it.
My name is Dwayne Aston. Much has been said about the loss of other ranges around, and most of everyone has been talking about pistol shooting or rifles. And I'd like to present a point of view from a trap shooter. Since I've been trap shooting, we've lost the Salt Lake Gun Club, the Holiday Gun Club, and most recently the Magna Gun Club, that were all catering to trap shooters, sporting clays, 5-stand. The Hendrickson Range is about the only one left. There is Lee K Center, but you know, if the wind's blowing across the dome, it's not the most pleasant smell in the world. I'd really like to keep the scenic beauty of that as a location where we can do clay shooting. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
A moment of personal privilege.
Yes, of course.
Since I love to
Councilmember
stir the
Rogers.
pot, who's the best shooter here? All right.
If only there was some way to verify.
Always, always you, Mr. Councilmember Rogers. All right, with that. I don't. No, I'm sorry, but you can definitely talk with us afterwards. So thank you for everyone for addressing us today. We appreciate that. We are on to agenda item E, which is new business. We have no new business. With agenda item F is unfinished business, the ordinance amendment to the Salt Lake City impact fee ordinance to comply with state law. I will look for a motion on this.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt an ordinance amending sections of Chapter 18.98 of the Salt Lake City Code relating to impact fees.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers, a second by Councilmember Johnston. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. And we're on to agenda item G. We're at the consent portion. I'll
Madam
look
Chair, for approval.
I have a motion by Councilmember Luke.
Second.
By Councilmember Johnston. And any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Thank you again for all being here today. That concludes our City Council formal meeting. Adjourned.